Florida is under siege, not by hurricanes, not by floods, but by living monsters crawling through the Everglades. These creatures are not myths. They are invasive predators, multiplying in the shadows, hollowing out ecosystems, and even threatening your family's safety. Scientists estimate more than 500 non-native species now roam the state, and among them are 6 so destructive that experts say they could permanently rewrite Florida's future. Ask yourself, what happens when snakes longer than a pickup truck devour every raccoon, bobcat, and rabbit? What happens when venom-spined fish wipe out 80% of reef life in just 5 weeks? Or when reptiles tear through seawalls, undermining homes worth millions of dollars? Even worse, what if the next victim isn't just wildlife, but your own backyard, your children, your health? These aren't isolated warnings. They're backed by hard data, relentless field studies, and decades of failed eradication attempts. Florida has become America's frontline battlefield against monsters that refuse to die. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Today, we expose why Florida must destroy these 6 Everglades monsters at all cost, before it's too late. Number 1. Pythons. It all began with one of the most violent storms in American history, Hurricane Andrew. In August of 1992, this Category 5 monster ripped across the Bahamas, Florida, and Louisiana, leaving behind a path of destruction that looked more like a war zone than a natural disaster. 65 lives were lost, and more than $27 billion in damages were recorded. Entire neighborhoods were leveled. Yet among the rubble and ruin, something else slipped loose, something that would change the Everglades forever. South of Miami, in Homestead, sat a breeding center full of Burmese pythons, exotic snakes imported from Asia, meant for the booming pet trade. Inside that warehouse were more than 100 of these powerful constrictors. When the storm's winds tore the facility apart, cages shattered like glass, and the snakes were hurled into the wild. Lieutenant Pat Reynolds of Florida Fish and Wildlife remembered inspecting the building only weeks before, never imagining that Andrew's fury would scatter living weapons into the swamp like frisbees. That hurricane didn't just destroy homes, it unleashed a silent invasion. The truth is, Burmese pythons didn't belong here. The first sightings in the wild date back to 1979, but the real population explosion came after Hurricane Andrew, and the Everglades, with its hot, wet, mosquito-thick air, turned out to be paradise. 20% of this vast wetland is protected as a national park, but even that sanctuary became an all-you-can-eat buffet for the snakes. What happened next shocked scientists. In the summer of 2023, hunters captured a python stretching 19 feet long and weighing 130 pounds. Experts suspected it was one of the earliest escapees, proof that these snakes had not just survived, but thrived. And that wasn't even the biggest. Another specimen measured 18 feet, but tipped the scales at 220 pounds. Florida pythons, researchers found, grow larger than any of their relatives in Asia. The Everglades had become a breeding ground for monsters, and monsters must eat. Studies in 2012 showed a devastating collapse of small and mid-sized mammals. Raccoons, gone. Opossums, wiped out. Bobcats, nearly vanished. Even swamp rabbits, once hopping across the marsh in healthy numbers, have almost disappeared. The python's hunger reshaped the entire food chain. Imagine walking through the Everglades today and realizing there are no raccoons left at all. It's like stepping into a ghost town. Why is Florida so vulnerable? Because here, unlike in Asia, there are no natural enemies. No tigers, no leopards, no giant lizards to strike back. Only endless warm seasons, perfect camouflage among sawgrass and mangroves, and prey that never saw them coming. Over time, scientists noticed something even more terrifying. Florida pythons were changing. DNA testing revealed hybridization with Indian pythons, smaller but faster hunters. That genetic twist could mean these hybrids are harder to track, quicker to strike, and even better suited for survival. Despite Florida's efforts, traps, hunting contests with $10,000 prizes, and more than 20 tons of snakes removed in just 10 years. The population continues to explode. Estimates say as many as 100,000 snakes may still slither across the wetlands. Scientists warn full eradication is almost impossible. Florida's climate is simply too perfect for them. So 30 years after Hurricane Andrew, the Everglades are still haunted. The real storm wasn't just wind and rain, it was the wave of invasive predators that followed. Burmese pythons turned one of America's wildest landscapes into their empire. And unless Florida destroys these monsters at all costs, the swamp itself may never recover. Number 2, Nile monitor. On one side, a tail like a whip, thick, muscular, and powerful enough to slice through the water and strike attackers with stunning force. On the other, a head designed like a machine of destruction, curved jaws, backward-pointing teeth, and a hunger that recognizes no limits. This is the Nile monitor, the largest lizard in Africa, a reptile that can stretch more than 6 feet long, and disturbingly, it has made its home in Florida. Nobody can pinpoint the exact day these predators arrived. What we do know is that the first confirmed sightings were in 1990. The story is predictable, almost cliché. Imported through the exotic pet trade, they seemed impressive in glass tanks, until their owners realized that keeping a 6-foot killing machine in the living room wasn't such a great idea. One by one, they were either released or escaped. Once free, the monitors wasted no time. They spread across the canals, multiplied, and began reproducing with frightening speed. Females lay up to 60 eggs at a time, and they don't wait long to start breeding. In short, once they're here to stay. And where do they go? To water, always to water, which just happens to be the same places Florida homeowners prize most. Backyard pools, quiet canals, lakefront properties. The overlap sets the stage for encounters that never end well. These lizards are more than unsettling visitors. They're destructive neighbors. They claw through fences, raid chicken coops, and shred nets with talons sharp enough to slice through skin. Families in Cape Coral have reported aggressive behavior, chased from their own yards, forced to abandon pools, afraid to let children play outside. And here's the chilling thought. Nile monitors don't stop at chickens. They can snap the neck of a cat or small dog with one violent move and swallow the body whole. Local data shows sharp declines in the population of stray cats where monitors have taken hold. To pet owners, this isn't science, it's heartbreak. Imagine stepping outside and realizing the family dog is gone, not because of a car accident, but because a prehistoric lizard dragged it away. Yet the threat extends far beyond pets. Florida's wild reptiles, the American alligator and the American crocodile, are also in danger. Nile monitors are notorious for raiding nests, stealing eggs, and even killing the young. In Africa, they sometimes even challenge adult crocodiles. Florida's versions, smaller and lighter, stand almost no chance. Monitors wait on land, sneak to the nest, and when threatened, dart away with eggs or hatchlings. Their flattened tails give them speed in water, letting them vanish in seconds. Again and again, crocodiles lose. What makes this invasion more unsettling is the contrast. In their native range, Nile monitors don't usually clash with humans. Africa is vast, and the lizards stay far from villages. But Florida is crowded. The southern part of the state is crisscrossed with canals that serve as natural highways for these lizards. Instead of wilderness, they live right next to us. In backyards, beside pools, under sidewalks, constant contact, no fear, and an endless buffet of pets, eggs, fish, and rodents. That's how a reptile becomes a monster. Researchers like Vivian DeBuff have even argued that, pound for pound, the Nile monitor is more dangerous than a crocodile of the same size. Ask any Cape Coral homeowner, and they'll agree. When a 6-foot predator moves in, life changes. Children stay indoors. Pools stay empty. Fear becomes part of daily life. Florida already ranks 7th in biodiversity, 3rd in human population, and within the top 5 for reptiles and birds. Add to that hundreds of invasive species, and you get the perfect storm. People and predators are colliding more often in closer spaces and with higher stakes. If it feels like Florida is crawling with monsters, that's because it is. And the Nile monitor is one of the most fearsome of them all. Number 3, giant snails. At first glance, you might laugh. A snail? A monster? Surely not. But the giant African land snail is no ordinary garden pest. These creatures grow to the size of a human fist, stretching nearly 10 inches long, with shells so hard and appetites so relentless that they've earned their place among Florida's most dangerous invaders. They look slow, almost harmless, crawling silently across damp lawns. Yet behind that slimy trail is a destructive force capable of reshaping ecosystems, wrecking agriculture, damaging homes, and even threatening human health. The scale of their appetite is staggering. One snail alone can devour more than 500 types of plants. Beans, peas, cucumbers, melons. Nothing is safe. If food runs short, they turn their rasping tongues on tree bark, ornamental shrubs, and Florida's delicate native flora. Their hunger doesn't stop with crops and greenery. When deprived of calcium, these snails chew straight through plaster walls, concrete, even the stucco of houses, extracting minerals to fortify their ever-expanding shells. Imagine walking outside to find the exterior of your home gnawed away by an army of oversized snails. But the danger isn't just economic. Giant African land snails are living carriers of parasites, tiny worms capable of causing a rare but devastating form of meningitis. The infection cycle begins when the snails ingest rat droppings. From there, the parasite can transfer to dogs that gulp down a snail in the yard, or to humans who bite into a piece of lettuce tainted by slug slime. Once inside, the parasites can migrate to the membranes around the brain, causing swelling, severe pain, and long-term neurological damage. For Florida residents, the nightmare isn't just in the fields, it can be on the dinner table. And here's where the situation spirals: reproduction. These snails are hermaphrodites, equipped with both male and female reproductive organs. They don't need a partner. A single snail can lay as many as 500 eggs in one clutch, and the young hatch within weeks. Soon, entire neighborhoods can be crawling with them. Lawns, walls, tree trunks, even rooftops covered in a slow-moving infestation. Their eggs cling to shoes, animal paws, car tires, even garden tools. Without realizing it, people spread them from one town to another, extending the infestation mile by mile. By the summer of 2023, Florida found itself once again declaring war. A single snail discovered north of Miami triggered an immediate quarantine across Miramar. Square miles of land were locked down. Soil, plants, even construction debris couldn't leave the zone without approval. And that wasn't the only battlefield. Similar quarantines were already underway in Lee County around Fort Myers and in Pasco County near Tampa. Each time, the presence of just one snail was treated as a biological emergency. The irony is painful. In Africa, the snails are a natural part of the ecosystem. Birds, mammals, and insects keep their numbers in check. They recycle plant waste, return nutrients to the soil, and enrich farmland with calcium. But in Florida's hot, wet climate, free of predators and full of food, they become something else entirely. They transform into agricultural disasters, multiplying unchecked, devouring everything in sight. How did they get here? Mostly through Florida's ports, slipping in among shipments tied to the multi-billion-dollar exotic animal trade. Despite being illegal, they're still smuggled for religious rituals, for curious collectors, or even sold online. Back in 1965, a schoolboy carried just 2 snails from Hawaii to Miami. Within 10 years, more than 18,000 had to be destroyed, at a cost of over $3 million in today's money. The battle seemed won until new outbreaks kept reappearing. At one point, small religious sects in Miami even used the snails in ceremonies, believing in their healing powers. Each time, the state was forced into full-scale eradication campaigns. Those campaigns are grueling. From 2011 to 2021, Florida officials collected more than 168,000 snails. They trained dogs to sniff them out. They dug 8 inches deep into soil to uncover hiding adults. Captured snails were frozen, a method considered both effective and humane. Contaminated areas were sprayed with metaldehyde, a toxin deadly to snails but approved for residential use. And yet, despite decades of effort, the monster keeps coming back. The giant African land snail is slow, yes, but relentless. With every rainfall, they emerge in droves, climbing fences, spreading eggs, chewing walls, and dragging the threat of brain parasites into Florida's backyards. This isn't just an invasive species, it's a creeping siege. And unless Florida takes extraordinary measures, the slimy march of these fist-sized monsters may never end. Number 4. Lionfish. It almost looks too beautiful to be dangerous. With its striped body, fanned fins, and long venomous spines waving like the rays of a crown, the lionfish is one of the most striking fish in the sea. But in Florida, beauty hides destruction. This predator, native to the Indo-Pacific and the Red Sea, has transformed from an aquarium curiosity into one of the most aggressive invaders the Atlantic Ocean has ever seen. Since the first confirmed sighting near Dania Beach in 1985, lionfish numbers have exploded, and their rise has devastated local reefs and marine life. The statistics are staggering. On Bahamian reefs where lionfish established themselves, scientists recorded an 80% crash in native fish populations within just 5 weeks compared to reefs where lionfish were absent. The reason is simple. Lionfish compete directly with local fish for food and habitat. But they don't just compete, they dominate. In Florida waters, lionfish often grow over 18 inches long, far bigger than the average 12 to 15 inches seen in their native range. And the bigger they grow, the bigger the prey they consume. A large lionfish can swallow fish half its own length, including commercially valuable species, and even its own kind. What's happening in Florida is nothing short of ecological release. In the Indo-Pacific, lionfish populations are naturally controlled by predators, parasites, and diseases. In the Atlantic, those checks simply don't exist. No grouper, shark, or snapper hunts them consistently, and their venomous spines make them unappealing to most predators. Free from natural limits, lionfish not only survive, they thrive. Surveys around the Bahamas show densities reaching over 390 individuals per 2.5 acres. That's 8 times higher than in the Red Sea, their native home. Worse still, they grow and reproduce at rates that leave scientists shaking their heads. Normally, lionfish take about a year to reach maturity, but in the Atlantic, they grow 1.25 to 2.25 times faster. Florida lionfish reach breeding size within months, and females are astonishingly fertile. A single female can produce 2 million eggs in one spawning event, and thanks to Florida's warm waters, spawning can occur every 4 days. That means a single female could theoretically produce hundreds of millions of offspring over her lifetime. The invasion we see today may have started with just a handful of escaped or released aquarium fish, but nature's perfect storm turned that handful into an army. And lionfish are not only numerous, but strategic. Their hunting methods are unusual for reef predators. Instead of chasing their prey, lionfish stalk slowly, spreading their fins like a living net to corner small fish. Then, with astonishing precision, they shoot out a jet of water to disorient the prey. Startled, the prey turns toward the lionfish, straight into the predator's mouth. This calculated technique, combined with their lightning-fast strike, makes lionfish terrifyingly effective hunters. The consequences ripple through the ecosystem. By removing small reef fish, lionfish disrupt the balance of coral reefs. Many of those small fish eat algae, which if left unchecked can smother corals. With lionfish wiping them out, corals face double pressure, warming oceans from climate change and unchecked algae growth from invasive predation. Reefs that once teemed with parrotfish, snapper, and wrasse are now eerily quiet, dominated by the spiny silhouette of lionfish drifting from coral head to coral head. Florida's waters have become the ideal environment for these invaders. The reefs provide endless hiding spots, the climate supports year-round breeding, and prey species are abundant. Without natural predators, lionfish have climbed to the top of the food chain almost overnight. Fishermen, divers, and scientists now describe them as a super predator, a species that multiplies rapidly, grows large, eats everything, and faces almost no threats. Efforts to control them are ongoing but difficult. Organized culling events encourage divers to spear lionfish, sometimes offering prizes for the largest catches. Restaurants promote lionfish as a delicacy, urging people to eat them to beat them. Yet these measures, while creative, only scratch the surface. The population is so vast and the fish reproduce so quickly that complete eradication is nearly impossible. The irony is cruel. What began as a beautiful aquarium pet has turned into a nightmare for Florida's ecosystems. With venomous spines, relentless reproduction, and an appetite that empties reefs, the lionfish has proven that monsters don't always look ugly. Sometimes the deadliest invaders are the most beautiful ones of all. Number 5. Iguanas. They begin their lives as charming little pets, bright green and small enough to perch on a child's shoulder. Many Floridians once thought of them as harmless companions, exotic but manageable. But the story of the green iguana in Florida is a lesson in how something cute can become catastrophic. With adults reaching up to 6 feet long, weighing up to 20 pounds and living for nearly 2 decades, these lizards transform from living ornaments into destructive monsters that now threaten both people and infrastructure. The most visible destruction lies beneath the surface. Green iguanas are expert diggers, using their claws and powerful limbs to carve elaborate burrows into canal banks, seawalls, and the foundations of buildings. At first, the damage seems minor. A few holes here, a collapsed patch of dirt there. But as the tunnels spread, the ground weakens. Critical infrastructure begins to crack. Seawalls crumble into waterways. Sidewalks tilt and collapse. Yards cave in without warning. For cities built on fragile coastlines and expensive waterfront properties, the financial toll runs into the millions. What once looked like innocent reptiles basking in the sun are, in reality, demolition crews with claws. And then there's the health threat. Iguanas are messy, and they deposit waste everywhere. On porches and swimming pools and playgrounds and across backyards. Their droppings carry salmonella bacteria, which can infect both humans and pets. Public health officials warn that contact with contaminated water or surfaces poses serious risks, especially for children who play barefoot outdoors. The idea of kids splashing in a pool sprinkled with invisible salmonella spores paints a disturbing picture of how closely this invasive species has entangled itself with daily life in Florida. The reproductive power of the green iguana makes the invasion almost unstoppable. Female iguanas lay anywhere from 20 to 70 eggs every year, usually in sandy soil or landscaped areas where people rarely notice until it's too late. The hatchlings emerge small but grow fast, reaching sexual maturity in just 2 years. At that point, they start the cycle again, adding to an exponential growth curve that overwhelms removal programs. A handful of iguanas can turn into thousands within a few seasons. Neighborhoods that once spotted 1 or 2 sunbathing lizards now report dozens, sometimes hundreds, covering fences, rooftops, and canal edges. Occasionally, nature provides Florida with a brief reprieve. When temperatures dip below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, iguanas literally fall out of trees, paralyzed by the cold. Residents wake up to find dozens of stiff, motionless reptiles littering sidewalks and driveways. But this relief is temporary. Once the sun warms the air again, many of those iguanas recover, rise, and crawl away to continue digging, breeding, and spreading. Climate change makes the situation even worse, since cold snaps are becoming less frequent, giving iguanas longer breeding seasons and higher survival rates year after year. The ecological consequences are staggering. Iguanas devour ornamental plants, garden vegetables, and native flora with equal enthusiasm. Their appetite reshapes ecosystems, stripping areas bare of greenery and putting pressure on already threatened native species. They also raid bird nests, eating eggs and hatchlings, compounding the stress on Florida's fragile bird populations, in a state already battling other invasive species, from Burmese pythons to lionfish. The iguana adds yet another layer of relentless pressure. And unlike predators that can at least be hunted or trapped, iguanas occupy a gray area. They're too numerous to eradicate, too embedded in urban environments to control with poisons or large-scale removal, and too fast breeding for volunteer capture programs to keep pace. Local governments issue advisories urging homeowners to humanely kill iguanas on their property, yet most residents lack the training, resources, or stomach to carry out such measures. The result? The invasion marches on, one egg clutch at a time. Perhaps the most unsettling part of the green iguana invasion is how ordinary it now feels. In many Florida neighborhoods, seeing 6-foot reptiles basking on docks or scuttling across golf courses has become normal. But normal doesn't mean safe. Beneath the sunbathing pose is a creature tearing apart infrastructure, spreading disease and multiplying faster than the state can respond. What started as an exotic pet craze has turned into a living nightmare. So the next time you see a bright green lizard stretched across a seawall, remember, it's not just sunbathing. It's laying the groundwork, literally, for Florida's next collapse. And unless drastic measures are taken, the quiet, steady spread of the green iguana may prove more devastating than anyone ever imagined. Number 6. Swamp eels. Some monsters don't roar, snap, or tower over you. Some monsters slither silently through the mud, surface only at night, and seem more like a nightmare from science fiction than an animal of flesh and blood. The Asian swamp eel is one such creature, a living alien in Florida's waterways. Long, serpentine, and nearly impossible to kill, this invader comes from Southeast Asia, but has now carved its way into the ponds, canals, and marshes of the Sunshine State. And once they arrive, they almost never leave. Their adaptations are nothing short of supernatural. Unlike most fish, swamp eels breathe air. They can survive in stagnant, oxygen-depleted waters where no native fish can live. Polluted canals, drying ditches, storm sewers. All of these become safe havens for swamp eels. When rains come, they take their invasion one step further. They wriggle over land, traveling from pond to pond like creatures on a mission. In one rainstorm, an eel can leave its home, cross wet ground, and establish itself in a brand new water body. For Florida biologists, This makes containment impossible. Barriers and nets mean little when the invader can simply slither around them. Once established, the devastation begins. Asian swamp eels are aggressive predators with no specialized diet. They eat fish, frogs, crayfish, invertebrates. Basically, anything alive and small enough to fit in their mouths. Native fish populations collapse as soon as large colonies take hold. Frogs vanish. Invertebrate numbers plummet. With their relentless appetite, swamp eels vault themselves to the top of the food chain, becoming apex predators in ecosystems where they never belonged. The disappearance of native species sends ripples through Florida's freshwater systems, unbalancing entire food webs. Their damage isn't limited to what they eat. Swamp eels are expert burrowers. They dig long tunnels into the banks of canals and ponds, undermining the soil and destabilizing shorelines. These burrows aren't just hiding places, they're survival bunkers. When droughts strike, native fish perish in drying ponds. But swamp eels retreat into their muddy tunnels, conserving energy until water returns. When the rains fill the pond again, the eels emerge and reclaim the habitat before native species can recover. It's as if the swamp itself has been reset, but this time with an alien ruler at the top. Even worse, detection is a nightmare. During the day, swamp eels vanish into their burrows and vegetation, almost impossible to spot. At night they feed, slipping through the water unseen. Standard fish sampling methods. Nets, traps, and surveys. Often miss them entirely. Entire infestations can grow unchecked for years before anyone realizes what has happened. By the time they're noticed, the damage is already catastrophic. The risks extend beyond ecology. Asian swamp eels act as carriers for parasites and pathogens from their native range, some of which can infect North American species unprepared for the assault. They concentrate pollutants in their tissues: mercury, pesticides, industrial runoff. And when predators like birds, raccoons, or even humans consume them, the toxins move up the chain. The invader doesn't just damage fish populations, it spreads sickness through ecosystems and communities alike. And here lies the cruel twist. Unlike charismatic invaders such as lionfish or colorful iguanas, swamp eels inspire little public attention. They're not flashy. They don't sun themselves in yards or spike divers with venom. They live in the shadows, multiplying quietly, spreading invisibly until entire waterways belong to them. Their invasion is silent, slow motion, and devastating. Florida's biologists admit that eradication is nearly impossible. Every survival advantage is stacked in the eel's favor. Air breathing, overland travel, burrow refuge, nighttime hunting, broad diet, parasite resistance. Each trait would be a headache in isolation. Combined, they create a species that adapts to every obstacle and survives every attempt at control. Invasive species experts call them one of the most resilient aquatic invaders on the planet. The truth is chilling. Florida's waters now host a predator that doesn't play by the same rules as the natives. These swamp eels are not just another fish. They are an invasion strategy wrapped in scales. A reminder that some of Florida's most dangerous monsters are not the ones we see in daylight, but the ones waiting in the dark, ready to slither into the next pond, the next canal, the next unsuspecting neighborhood. The Everglades monsters won't stop. Uncovering the truth is our weapon. Join us, subscribe now, and never face fear alone.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our daily content. Now feel free to check out some of our newest and best videos currently showing on the screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.